My son was burning up with a high fever, but my husband was out celebrating his first love's daughter's birthday. The next morning, I calmly proposed a divorce. He frowned. Is it really necessary to make such a big deal out of something so small? If you divorce me, you'll leave with nothing. All right, I replied flatly. He hadn't expected me to agree so quickly. Andy looked up at me, his gaze was sharp. Cora, are you sure? If you walk away, you won't get anything, not even custody of our son. I know, I said. Let's just get the divorce proceedings over with as soon as possible. Angered by my attitude, Andy stopped trying to persuade me. Fine. We'll meet at the marriage registration office tomorrow at 8 a.m. It was easier to get a divorce than it had been to get married. Holding our divorce papers, I posted on social media, "Happy divorce." The post got many likes, including one from Andy's first love, Miranda. Later, as I was packing my clothes, I overheard Andy and Miranda talking. She was apologizing profusely for calling a married man, blaming herself for our breakup. Andy's voice was cold. It is not your fault. Don't overthink it. When I walked into the room, Miranda looked startled for a moment before forcing a smile. Cora, you're back. I'll go make you some dinner. Andy didn't even look up from the papers on the table. I stared at them both. We're not married anymore, so please call me Ms. Lee, I said sharply. And just because I've divorced Andy doesn't give you the right to flaunt your presence in my home. If you want to show off, at least wait until you're his wife. Although, given your situation, I doubt the Koo family elders will ever approve of you. As I spoke, I saw the color drain from Miranda's face. She had been the campus beauty back in university, and even after all these years, she was still as charming as ever. She shivered. Ms. Lee, you've misunderstood. That's not. I waved her off dismissively. You know what you meant. Andy frowned. Cora, our problems have nothing to do with Miranda. You don't need to be so aggressive. A bitter, sarcastic smile touched my lips. Andy and Miranda had been the power couple in college. One day, after a thug harassed Miranda, Andy found the guy and beat him up. In retaliation, the thug deliberately ran Andy over with his car, leaving him in the hospital for a full year. During the year Andy was recovering, Miranda married a campus bully who had been pursuing her, and they had a daughter. Now, 7 years later, she was trying to escape her husband's constant domestic violence by filing for a forced divorce. But his family had influence, and the proceedings had been dragging on for a year with no resolution. That's when she turned to Andy. The first time Miranda called was on our son's birthday. Andy had promised him, "I'll be back soon to cut the cake with you, son." But he never came. Our son sat at the table all night, his head shoot up with hope at every sound from the door. Things like that started happening more and more after Miranda reappeared. Missed amusement park, abandoned dinner. But a single call from her would be enough for him to pat our son on the head, offer a quick apology, and left. Chapter 2. I had promised our son a summer vacation, but one call from Miranda shattered those plans. I had promised to attend his parent-teacher meeting, but when I couldn't make it again, because of her he became the laughingstock of his class. I tried everything. I argued, I pleaded, I threw tantrums, but it was all useless. It only pushed Andy further away. My mother-in-law came to me. Andy is a responsible man, she said. He would never hurt you or your son. As long as you are the wife of a Koo, he will never abandon you. I nodded. It was true, and it was the very reason I'd given up custody. Andy had always felt free to leave at a moment's notice because he knew I would always be there for our child. Now that I was gone, could he still rush to Miranda's side with a clear conscience? The next day, a news story went viral: Mistress boldly enters family home while wife is still there. Miranda's face wasn't blurred, and people who knew her quickly dug up her past. Isn't that the Ice Queen from university? Wow, so now she's a mistress. The wife hasn't even moved out and the other woman is already making herself at home? Shameless. I hate these types who play the innocent victim. It's so disgusting. All mistresses should just disappear. I completely agree with the comment above. The online backlash against Miranda was swift and brutal. I thought it would force her to lie low, but ironically, it worked in her favor by finally getting her a divorce. Her husband's prominent family couldn't stand the public disgrace of such a daughter-in-law and cut her loose immediately. When Miranda demanded half their assets, her ex-husband's family submitted the video ID posted as evidence of her infidelity. The court ruled that she had to leave with nothing. Being a deeply patriarchal family, they also refused to take custody of their daughter, Anna. My son, Luis, called me. "Mommy, I haven't seen you in so long. When are you coming back?" The little guy's voice was heartbroken. "The nanny said you don't want me anymore." "Is that true? Did I do something to make you mad? Tell me, Mommy, and I'll fix it. Please don't leave me, okay?" I froze, then my voice turned cold. "Which nanny told you that?" It was Lisa," my son whispered. "Sweetheart," I said, my tone softening, "Mommy has to be away for a little while, but I have not abandoned you. If anyone ever says such nonsense to you again, you tell Daddy or me immediately. Even though I'm not at home, I still love you very much." "Okay, Mommy, that makes me feel better," he said. "I just transferred $5 million to your account. Take care of yourself. Eat well and drink well. Grandma and Daddy gave me lots of money, so I'm rich now and I can take care of you. You don't have to work so hard anymore," he added, with all the seriousness a child could muster. I smiled and reassured him, then called Andy. He fired the nanny on the spot and warned the rest of the staff that anyone who spoke ill of me in front of our son would be kicked out. On Friday afternoon, Andy called to say he couldn't pick up Luis from school. When I arrived, I ran into Miranda, bundled up in a thick coat. The sight of my calm composure seemed to make her age 10 years on the spot. She glared at me. "Are you happy now? Your video turned me into a pariah. My Anna is innocent. You're a mother too. How could you be so cruel? Aren't you afraid karma will come for your own son?" I glanced at her indifferently, casually fiddling with my fresh manicure. "I'm not satisfied at all," I said, shaking my head. "What's happening to you is nothing. You deserve 10 times worse. And your daughter is no angel. Her father's family made a wise decision to disown her. You bitch. You've ruined me. I won't let you get away with this," she shrieked. I simply waved my hand dismissively. "I'll be waiting." After I spent the day with Luis at the amusement park, Andy showed up as the sun was setting. "Miranda called me today," he said, looking at me. I just stared back. "What? Here to defend your mistress? You know that's not what I mean. Could you stop being so harsh? You weren't like this before." "And what was I like before?" I countered. "A dutiful housewife, cooking and cleaning? Taking care of everything while blindly obeying you? People change, Andy. Before Miranda showed up, you were the ideal husband and a perfect father. But what have you become since then?" I started counting on my fingers. I'd done the math. Since Miranda re-entered our lives 2 years ago, you have broken 99 promises. Every single time you made a promise to our son, or to me, it was shattered by a single phone call from her. I looked him straight in the eye. "Tell me you dare say any of this has nothing to do with Miranda." "We're alumni," he mumbled. "She was in trouble, and I was just helping her out. I swear, I never physically cheated on you." I smiled and turned away. "There's more than one way to cheat. In my eyes, what you did is just as bad. And in my world, there is zero tolerance for it." Now a social outcast, Miranda hid with her daughter wherever she could. Unable to watch them suffer, Andy moved them into a villa not far from our home. This gave Miranda an excuse to knock on his door frequently, often using her daughter as a pretext to bring over food. Andy, however, politely but firmly refused her advances. Chapter 3. When my son mentioned her, he wrinkled his nose. I don't like the supplements Aunt Miranda brings, he grumbled. They taste gross. Then he leaned in and whispered, she comes over every night, Mommy. She keeps saying sorry to Daddy and asks if they can go back to how things were. I smiled. Predictable. Miranda's reputation was in ruins. Clinging to Andy was her only lifeline. Of course, she wouldn't pass up this chance. What else do you know? I teased him. I also know Daddy doesn't want Aunt Miranda coming over so much, he said, tilting his head proudly. Daddy told me to study hard and not let things like this distract me. When I'm not here, you listen to your father, I told him. He won't let anything happen to you. Andy's work was swamping him, and since our son refused to bond with the new nanny, he had no choice but to call me. For Luis's sake, we had agreed not to tell him about the divorce yet. Returning to that house felt like stepping into another life. When Luis saw me, his face lit up. Mommy, I got first place in the math Olympiad again, he shouted. I smiled and praised him. To me, it was just a simple, happy reunion between a mother and son. To Andy, watching from the doorway, it seemed to stir a storm of emotions inside him. A week later, my phone rang. It was Andy. Cora, what is this? He demanded. We agreed to an amicable split. Are you trying to bankrupt my family? Have you thought about Luis? Even through the phone, I could picture his face, twisted with rage. What are you talking about? What did I do? I asked coldly. The company's confidential files were leaked, he said, his voice seething. That file was in our home safest safe, only you had the password to. Do I really need to spell it out for you? Andy, if you're having a breakdown, go see a doctor. Don't throw baseless accusations at me. I paused before continuing, ruining you does me no good. It would only hurt Luis, and I'm not that stupid. Why do you think I gave up custody? So he could have the best education the Koo family can provide. I would never jeopardize his future. The Koo family is a powerhouse in business and medicine. Luis's school alone costs millions a year. Now, use your head, Andy. Think. Who has been visiting our house constantly? Who keeps showing up with the excuse of bringing supplements? Who is the most likely person to steal that file? Do I really need to say her name? The answer was obvious, but he refused to see it. It's not possible, Andy said flatly. Miranda wouldn't do that. He paused. She has no reason to hurt me. I laughed a short, sharp sound and hung up. I immediately retrieved the security footage from the guardhouse and sent it to him with a simple message: you already know the answer. Why lie to yourself? The video was damning. It showed Miranda arriving for her last visit while I was out with our son. Half an hour later, she emerged, clutching something to her chest, glancing around nervously before slipping away from the villa. When I demanded we call the police, Andy refused. Calling the police will create a huge scandal for the Koo family, he insisted. We can't do that. I snorted. He was just hiding behind the company's reputation to protect her. You are a disappointment to your parents, Andy. This incident, however, planted a seed of doubt in his heart. A few days later, while I was at the park with Luis, we ran into Miranda and her daughter. It was clear Miranda's lifestyle had taken a nosedive. Anna, her daughter, stared at my son with pure hatred, her small face twisted with a malice far beyond her years. She pointed a finger at him. It's all your fault, she shrieked. It's because of you that Uncle Koo won't accept my mommy. And your own mommy doesn't even want you. You're just a worthless bastard. My eyes narrowed. In one swift motion, I stepped forward and slapped Anna hard across the face. The sound cracked in the quiet air. Miranda, I said, my voice ice as I rubbed my stinging hand, if you can't teach your daughter discipline, I will. The slap only enraged Anna further. I'm going to kill you, she screamed, lunging at me. You evil woman. It's your fault my mommy is suffering. Miranda grabbed her. Miss Cora, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I never intended to break up your family. I just hope Andy does well. He's only helping me because we were classmates. Save it, I cut her off, waving a hand dismissively. Stop using that tired excuse. I know exactly who you are. In my world, there's no such thing as don't bully the weak, so don't even try to pull the moral high ground with me. Seeing the look in my eyes, Miranda froze. The sight of them was ruining my day. I took my son's hand to leave, but as I turned, I felt a sudden, sharp shove from behind. My reflexes took over. I spun around and delivered a powerful kick, sending the person flying backward into the nearby artificial lake. Years of taekwondo training made dealing with this pair child's play. Anna thrashed in the water, screaming, "Mommy, save me!" Miranda stared at me, her eyes filled with pure hatred. Cora! I can't believe you'd be so vicious to a child. I just shrugged. Well, if you don't get in there and save your precious daughter, she's going to drown. Miranda panicked, screaming that she couldn't swim. The bystanders just watched, too scared to risk their own lives for a stranger's child. Anna's head was about to slip under the water for the last time when a figure suddenly sprinted past the crowd and dove into the lake. Chapter 4. Here is the polished version of your text, refined for a native English audience with improved flow, dialogue, and impact. My son's eyes lit up. Daddy! It's Daddy! Andy swam towards Anna with powerful strokes. People on the shore threw a rope, and Andy grabbed it, pulling them both to safety. He collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. My son immediately took off his small jacket and draped it over his father's shivering body. Daddy, are you okay? Luis asked, his small hands wiping water from Andy's forehead. Meanwhile, Miranda was wailing, clutching her daughter. Anna, my Anna! If something happens to you, Mommy can't go on living. Anna looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. Ms. Cora, I know I was wrong. I'll never show up in front of you again. Please, let my mommy and me go. I promise I'll stay away from Uncle Ku from now on. Please, just give us a way out. I raised an eyebrow. She really knows how to play the victim. Miranda put on a face of pure anguish. Ms. Cora, if you're angry, take it out on me. The child is innocent. Why would you push my daughter into the water? You're a mother, too. How could you be so cruel? The bystanders around us began to stare at me with suspicion. My son became frantic. That's not what happened, he shouted. She pushed me first. Mommy only fought back to protect me. In a flash, Andy spun around and slapped our son hard across the face. The sound was sickening. Luis, he roared. Have I taught you nothing? Who taught you to lie? My expression turned to ice. My son, holding his bright red cheek, burst into tears. I'm not lying. It's the truth. She called me a bastard that nobody wants, and then she tried to push me. Mommy was protecting me. How dare you keep lying? Andy shouted, throwing our son's jacket to the ground and pointing an angry finger at him. At that moment, Anna spoke up, her voice meek. Mr. Ku, please don't blame Luis. He was just trying to protect his mommy. It's all my fault. I'm the one who upset Ms. Cora. Just as Andy was about to comfort her, my bodyguards rushed over. I narrowed my eyes and gave a single, sharp order to clear the area. This amusement park was my family's property, and the crowd was dispersed with ruthless efficiency. After instructing a guard to take my son to get changed, I turned my cold gaze to the man still on the ground. Hold him down, I ordered, my voice dangerously quiet. And beat him. The bodyguards froze. Miss, that's your husband. Andy stared at me in disbelief. Cora, how dare you? Are you refusing my orders? I cut in. If you want to keep your jobs, you'll do as I say. Otherwise, you can all leave now. The image of the red handprint on my son's face burned in my mind, fueling my rage. Andy's words were cut off as the guards, choosing their jobs over their hesitation, slammed him to the ground. Their fists landed with dull thuds, carefully avoiding his face and vital organs, but striking his body over and over. Miranda and Anna trembled in fear at the sight. You're committing a crime," Miranda stammered. I glanced at her with amusement. "Feel free to take his place." Terrified, Miranda fell silent. After a thorough beating, Andy lay on the ground, broken and gasping. I looked down at him. "You should thank God you're Luis's father," I said softly. "Otherwise, for that slap, I would have had them break both your hands. My family has ties to the underworld, Andy. You should know that making someone disappear isn't difficult for us." My words hung in the air like a death sentence for the three of them. "Oh, and one more thing," I continued slowly. "Given your performance today, I've already spoken with your mother. The coup group is getting a new successor. All of your cards will be suspended by morning, and every asset in your name will be frozen. Out of respect for your relationship with my son, your mother has left you a single villa. For everything else, you're on your own." I stood up and waved a dismissive hand. "Good luck." Andy, not believing me, immediately called his mother. But when Mrs. Koo heard that her precious grandson had been slapped, her fury matched my own. She agreed to my proposal without a moment's hesitation. The new successor of the coup group was Andy's older brother, Peter. When I arrived at the coup group's headquarters, I found Peter reclining in his office chair, deep in thought. "Didn't we agree not to meet again?" he asked without opening his eyes, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Did my useless little brother finally piss you off?" That was Peter, always direct, always hitting the nail on the head. Even after years, I could never quite figure him out. The Koo brothers were night and day. Peter was meticulous, a cunning fox in a tailored suit. Andy was a hopeless romantic, all heart and no spine. When I married into the family, my parents had let me choose. After weighing my options, I chose Andy, but with one condition: he had to be named the successor to the coup group. My husband, I had declared, will never be second best. The Koo family agreed. They needed my family's influence to help Andy counterbalance Peter. What they didn't know was that Peter and I already had a history. We had a transactional arrangement for 2 years. He was drawn to my beauty and ambition, using me as a trophy partner to fend off other women at business events. I was drawn to his connections, which he shared generously. We both knew the truth: there was no love, only mutual benefit. When I proposed we end things, Peter hadn't even looked up from his desk. He just gave a cold, simple reply: "Fine." Chapter 5. Here is the final polished version of your text, refined for a native English audience with enhanced flow, dialogue, and dramatic impact. After striking a deal with Peter, I left immediately. I didn't want to stay a moment longer. He just smiled, watching my hurried retreat. 2 months passed. The private investigator I hired sent regular updates. Since losing his position as successor, Andy had become withdrawn and indecisive. At first, it wasn't a problem, but Miranda's resentment built up day by day. Eventually, she exploded. "If it weren't for that Cora woman, I'd still be living a happy life with my daughter," Miranda screamed. "How did I end up like this? I've had enough of you, Andy. You're useless. You can't even control one woman. I must have been blind to choose you." After days of her venting, Andy finally snapped. "You need to get a conscience," he spat back. "If it weren't for you, would I have dealt with those thugs? Would I have lost a year of my life in a hospital? Would I be in this mess? And your daughter, she's a little schemer. Cora sent me the security footage. Anna was the one cursing Luis and trying to push him in the lake. Cora was just protecting her son. The two of you, you're poison." Enraged, Anna lunged at Andy, but he shoved her hard to the ground. Seeing her precious daughter fall, something in Miranda broke. She snatched a pair of scissors from the table and plunged them into Andy's chest. He stared down at the scissors embedded in his torso, his eyes wide with disbelief. Blood gushed from the wound, pooling on the floor. As Andy collapsed, the reality of what she had done hit Miranda. Shaking, she fumbled for her phone. Hello? Pablo? I. I killed him. I killed Andy. You promised you'd take me and my daughter back if I did. A voice on the other end said something that made the color drain from her face. Pablo, you lied to me? You bastard, I'll kill you. A cold, mocking laugh was the only reply before the line went dead. When I received the news, Andy was already in the emergency room. Miranda and her daughter had been arrested. Andy was critically injured, but Miranda would likely only face a 3 to 5 year sentence for aggravated assault. Unwilling to accept that, she decided to bring about her own ruin. On the way to the hospital for a checkup, she poisoned her daughter to create a diversion and managed to escape custody. When Miranda's eyes fluttered open, the first thing she saw was me, sitting calmly in a chair opposite her. We were in an abandoned, soundproofed basement. No one would hear her scream. Cora, what do you want? She rasped, struggling against her restraints. The more she fought, the tighter the ropes became. I've come to see you off on your final journey, I said with a serene smile, enjoying the fear on her face. You want to kill me? She whispered, her eyes wide with terror. Kill you? I shook my head. No, no. I'm not killing you. The official story will be that you, fearing a long prison sentence, tragically took your own life. After all, you already have one life on your conscience. I leaned in. But you really are cruel. Poisoning your own daughter just to escape. I almost admire the nerve. Did she even realize you were the one killing her? You're talking nonsense. Miranda shrieked. Don't you dare talk about Anna. I just gave her a laxative, it wouldn't have hurt her. Is that so? Then why is her body in the hospital morgue? 'Cause of death, poison. The very drink you gave her. No. Impossible. You're lying. Miranda screamed, her expression turning wild. I took out my phone and showed her the news report, shattering her last shred of denial. The screen detailed how Miranda had poisoned her own daughter in a desperate escape attempt. No, it can't be. I only gave her a laxative. How could it be poison? She mumbled, her mind fracturing. Then, something clicked. Her bloodshot eyes locked onto mine. It was you, she hissed. You switched the medicine. I snorted coldly. Why do you think Pablo divorced you so easily, Miranda? Why do you think he set you up? And those confidential files you stole from Andy's safe? I'm the one who leaked them to you in the first place. The full weight of it all crushed her. Miranda's death was brutal. When they found her, she was unrecognizable. A few days later, a voice called my name. I turned to see Pablo, Miranda's ex-husband, smiling. Ms. Cora. A pleasure doing business with you. He extended a hand. I stepped back, avoiding it. I have no idea what you're talking about. I turned to leave, wanting nothing more to do with him. Don't be in such a hurry, he said, blocking my path. He pulled out a tiny listening device. With a tap on his phone, our entire conversation from the basement, my confession, my threats, everything played out between us. I stared at him in utter disbelief. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind it. He had been playing a longer game, waiting for the perfect moment for me to let my guard down. And I had walked right into his trap. Chapter 6. Here is the polished version of your text, refined for a native English audience with improved flow, dialogue, and suspense. What do you want? I asked, my voice low. Don't think you can threaten me with this. You set Miranda up. You're the reason Anna is dead. Don't you dare try to pin this on me. But who can prove that? Pablo laughed, a chilling sound. The people who rescued Miranda were your people. Her last visitor was you. Who's going to believe you weren't involved in her death? He leaned in. I've already destroyed all the call records between us. If I release this recording, you and your family will be torn apart by the media. Do you really think anyone will care about the truth then? I felt an icy chill spread through my limbs as I walked numbly toward the coup group building. I thought I was finally free, but I had only fallen into a deeper abyss. All I want is simple, Pablo continued, his voice echoing in my mind. Hand over the coup group's real confidential documents, and this recording disappears forever. He sneered. I'm not as stupid as Miranda. I knew the file you gave her was a fake. Only that fool thought she'd hit the jackpot. The real document is with Peter now, I said. I can't get it. Don't sell yourself short, Miss Cora. I have faith in you. You have 3 days. If I don't have that file, this recording will be my gift to the world. He gave me a malicious smile and walked away. My hands trembling, I dialed Peter's number. Peter, I said into the phone. I need to talk. Meet me at the cafe across from your office. I'll wait. After hanging up, I stared at the towering office building, my mind racing. I couldn't afford to gamble. My only option was to wait and pray he would take the bait. When I finally saw his familiar figure exit the building, a heavy weight lifted from my chest. The moment the private elevator doors opened into his office, I rushed in and locked the main door behind me. I knew this office by heart, and I knew exactly where the safe was. I took a deep breath and entered the password I knew by heart, Andy's birthday. Incorrect password. I froze. He'd changed it. 2 attempts left. My mind raced. What would Peter change it to? Thinking logically, I typed in his own birthday. Incorrect password. 1 attempt left. One more failure and the safe would lock down, triggering a silent alarm. My heart pounded against my ribs. I thought for a long moment, then, on a wild hunch, I carefully typed in my own birthday. Ding. The small green light flashed. The password was correct. My mind reeled. Why my birthday? But there was no time to dwell on it. I pulled the heavy door open. To my utter shock, the safe was empty. I stood there for a long moment, unable to process what I was seeing. Where were the documents? Looking for this? Peter's voice cut through the silence. I whipped around, my heart leaping into my throat. He was leaning against the wall, casually holding the very file I was searching for. When did you get here? I stammered, my lips suddenly dry. I never left, he said simply. The man you saw leave was a body double. With that one sentence, he condemned me. He had been here the whole time, watching me like a fool in a play, letting me get to the very brink of success before delivering the final, fatal blow. Under his hawk-like gaze, I told him everything. He listened thoughtfully, his expression unreadable. When I finished, there was a long pause before he sneered. You're still as naive as ever. This document is the lifeblood of the coup group. Once Pablo has it, he'll destroy everyone, including me. I knew he was right. If I don't give him that file, Luis will be the one who suffers, I said, my voice cracking as I forced tears to well in my eyes. I'm not afraid to die, Peter, but my son is innocent. He doesn't deserve this. The tears spilled over, and I grabbed his hand, playing my part to perfection. Tell me what to do. Please, what can I do? Peter's expression remained unreadable, but he reached out and gently wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. Don't worry, he said, his voice soft. Pablo won't be a problem. He's nothing. The moment I stepped out of the company building, the mask of a terrified mother fell away, replaced by cold, hard resolve. I discreetly rubbed the spot on my thigh I'd been pinching to make my eyes water and let out a bitter laugh. I never thought I'd have to resort to playing the damsel in distress for Peter, of all people. There were enemies on all sides, every step was like walking on glass. If it weren't absolutely necessary, I would never have gotten entangled with him again. I had spent 2 years with Peter. I knew just how terrifying he could be when provoked. If he decided to act, Pablo didn't stand a chance. Chapter 7. When I arrived at the hospital, our son was sitting dutifully by Andy's bed. After sending Luis out, I turned my attention to Andy. His face was pale against the white pillows, and my heart was a mess of conflicting emotions. Just as I was about to leave, his eyes fluttered open. He looked at me, his mouth opening, but no sound came out. "The doctor says you'll be fine," I said flatly, turning to go. "You'll be out of here after you get some rest." He grabbed my hand, his grip surprisingly strong, dislodging the oxygen mask on his face. "Cora. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect you, or Luis." I frowned. "I don't know what you're talking about. Let go." "I had a dream," he whispered, his eyes bloodshot and frantic. "I dreamed that you both died. Miranda killed you, and then she and her daughter bullied Luis until he jumped from a building on a rainy night. After that, she and Pablo drained the family of everything. I took Luis's ashes, and I drove my car into hers. That was my only way to get revenge." His voice choked, thick with emotion. "It all felt so real, Cora. Every time I close my eyes, I see it, and I can't breathe." I stared at him, lost in a memory I thought was mine alone. "Those things, they really happened, didn't they?" Andy asked, his voice barely a whisper. He didn't wait for an answer, realization dawning on his face. "So that's why you did it. You set one trap after another, to make sure Miranda couldn't hurt him this time." As I left the hospital, my legs gave out from under me, and I sank to the floor. Later, he asked me, "Cora, can we go back? For Luis's sake?" I shook my head. "It's too late. There's no going back. You don't love me, and I don't love you. You only want me now because I happen to be the right person for you at this moment. Nothing more." As I was leaving his room for the last time, he asked one final question. "Why didn't you get revenge on me, too? With your intelligence, it would have been easy." I didn't look back. "Because you're Luis's father. If anything happened to you, it would break his heart." The next day, Pablo was dead. The news reported he'd gotten into an argument with a cousin over company matters. The cousin stabbed him in the neck with a fountain pen. By the time paramedics arrived, Pablo had bled out. The cousin, conveniently, had a documented history of mental illness, making him legally untouchable. Pablo's company was swiftly carved up by its shareholders, with Peter taking the largest piece. When I saw the news, a shiver ran down my spine, but I also felt a profound sense of relief. This was Peter's work. With all the obstacles finally cleared, I held my son tightly, overwhelmed with a joy that was tangled with the grief of a life I'd already lost. This time, I thought, Mommy can finally protect you. Looking back on that first life, the pain was still sharp. I hated Miranda for her schemes, but I hated Andy even more for his weakness. Watching my son, my sweet Luis, driven to depression and then to his death by that woman and her child, the memory of that rage fueled everything I did. When I opened my eyes and found myself back in the past, before it all happened, I was given a second chance. And I swore I would make them all pay. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Luis asked, looking up at me with his wide, innocent eyes. "I don't understand." "It's nothing, sweetie," I said softly, pulling him closer. "Mommy just had a bad dream. But now that I can see you, I'm not afraid of anything." When I got home with Luis, Peter was sitting on the sofa, a faint smile on his lips as he watched us enter. A profound chill ran down my spine. He didn't speak a word, but his eyes, and the slight curve of his mouth, said everything. It was a look that conveyed a silent, terrifying message. "My prey. Welcome back."